Today I'm going to show you how to turn one of my guilty pleasures into something a little less guilty. So stick around.
If you've been around for long, you probably know that karaage is one of my favorite foods. The juicy, flavorful interior and potato chip crisp exterior are an irresistible combo.
As much as I love the original, I'm all about challenging myself to come up with plant-based alternatives. So I decided it's about time I came up with a vegan-friendly version of this Japanese classic.
After experimenting with processes like freezing, pressing, and par frying, I think I've come up with the best method for making karaage from tofu. As you can see, it's indistinguishable from one that's made from chicken, and like the original, it's juicy and flavorful on the inside and ultra crisp on the outside.
Looks delicious, right? Let's take a look at our ingredients.
For the protein, I'm using a block of firm tofu. As long as it's not the silken type, any tofu should work. To season it, I'm using 2 tablespoons of sake, 1.5 tablespoons of soy sauce, half a teaspoon of grated ginger, half a teaspoon of grated garlic, and a half teaspoon of konbucha granules. We also need about 50 grams of potato starch to coat the karaage. The first thing we need to do is press the tofu. I'm using a wire rack set over a tray with another tray and weight on top. The idea here is to get as much weight onto the tofu as you can without smashing it to pieces. Okay, it's been about an hour, and as you can see, the tofu is about half the thickness, and there's a big pool of water under the rack. The more water you press out of the tofu, the closer the texture is gonna get to chicken, but it's also gonna make it drier, so you don't wanna overdo it. For the marinade, I'm gonna add the sake, soy sauce, ginger, garlic, and konbucha to a bowl and mix it all together. Japanese konbucha or kombucha is a savory stock made from kelp, and it's not the same thing as the fermented beverage, so be sure you don't get them mixed up. Along with the sake and soy sauce, it adds umami producing amino acids, which gives the tofu a meaty taste. Once it's all dissolved, I'm gonna grab the pressed tofu and tear it into irregular chunks like this. Irregular is the key word here, and you don't want any hard corners that'll give away the fact that it's tofu. Also, the torn edges tend to soak up the marinade a lot better than the manufactured edges, so be sure every piece has at least 3 torn sides. Now I'm gonna stir this together to ensure every piece of tofu is coated in marinade. It's super crumbly and delicate at this stage, so do this gently or you're gonna end up with mashed tofu. Okay, now we just set this aside and let it marinate for at least 30 minutes. While we're waiting, I'm gonna line a wire rack with a few sheets of paper towels. I'm also gonna add 1.5 inches of vegetable oil to a heavy bottomed pot with high sides, and I'm gonna get this preheating to 340 degrees Fahrenheit or 170 degrees Celsius.
Before we fry these up, I want to take a moment to send a big shout out to my supporters who helped to make this video possible. There are lots of ways to help, including ones that don't involve money. So if you're learning something new from my recipes, hit the link in the description down below to see what you can do.
Okay, our tofu's good to go and our oil is preheated, so I'm gonna go ahead and roll each piece of tofu in the potato starch to give it an even coating before adding them into the oil. I used to do the coating step in advance, but the texture of the shell is much better if you coat it right as you're adding it to the oil. If you end up with some stray pieces, you can use the potato starch like glue to hold the pieces together. Now we just need to let these fry until the karaage is light brown in color. This is gonna take about 5 minutes. Be sure to flip the tofu over periodically to ensure that it browns evenly. Okay, this is looking just about right, so I'm gonna go ahead and transfer the karaage to a plate and set it aside while we raise the temperature of the oil to 355 degrees Fahrenheit or 180 degrees Celsius. When the oil is up to temperature, I'm gonna add the karaage back in and let it fry until it's golden brown. You may have noticed that the crust lost its crispness pretty quickly after the first fry. This is because there was still liquid on the inside that was escaping when we removed it from the oil. By pulling it out and letting it sit for a bit, it gives the moisture a chance to reach equilibrium. Then we fry it again at a higher temperature and it gives the karaage a lasting crust that stays crispy for longer. I don't usually recommend double frying karaage because it tends to make chicken dry, but for tofu, it's a great way to improve its texture. Okay, these have browned up nicely, so let's get them out of the oil and onto our prepared rack to drain.
Looks good. All right, let's try one of these guys out. Ooh, it's still hot, but it's so crispy. This is never gonna fool anyone. It doesn't taste like chicken, but it does taste like karaage, and it's got that crispy, wonderful mouthfeel. This is delicious.
Before we plate the rest of these up, I'm gonna fry some long peppers for a pop of color. If you do this, be sure they're totally dry and use a knife to poke a few holes in them so they don't explode. Okay, let's plate these up. In Japan, we usually serve fried foods on a sheet of paper to absorb excess oil, but you can also use a paper towel. Let's get a few peppers on there, along with a few lemon wedges. And our karaage made from tofu is done.
This tofu karaage is ridiculously good as is, but you can also use it as a base for my orange chicken or chicken sandwich recipe, so be sure to check those out as well. As always, let me know if you enjoyed this video by giving this a big thumbs up, and don't forget to send this to all your friends that are trying to eat a little less meat. All right, I'm gonna go have the rest of these while they're still crisp, but be sure to check out this playlist for more easy plant-based recipes, and I'll catch you in the next one.